This is a presentation on configuring and navigating within the Chromatogram window for the new version of NIST 26. It has a video and an associated handout. You can see the full course on my website for this new integrated product from NIST, which includes deconvolution and library searching for both EIGCMS and LCMSMS. It's a very Windows compliant approach. It's a consistent approach in all the Chromatogram and all the other windows within the NIST search. It will be demonstrated for EI and MSMS in the MSMS chromatogram window because it's essentially the same setup in both the EI and the MSMS. There's lots of in-program help and detailed user's manual. I won't talk about the user's manual in the presentation here, but it is available. Instead of showing it on the handout, I think I'll go to the program. You can always look at the handout later. So I'll open the program. We're in the lib search tab, which is the one you're most familiar with if you've used the software in the past. For any of the windows that you're in, when you click on a window, you can hit F1 on your keyboard, and you'll bring up a lot of information about that window. And in addition to that, you have, of course, the ability to search the index by topics and the contents of the material, and of course the search of individual words, which is very useful. We have this what's new, which tells you what's new in this version and also in all the past versions. This is somewhat duplicated again by going to the help topics and say help topics, and you can do the same thing. You can look at the contents, the index, and the search and what's new. So it's essentially another way to get to the same place. If you go within a window, and I'm going to right click on it. Now, let's say I want to look at the properties of this window to set it up. You'll come into another window that you again can hit F1 on your keyboard and brings up information, or you can go to the help on the bottom corner. So let's cancel out of that. Let's go into the Chromatogram window. This is a new tab that's been added in this new software. And again, you can type F1, and it'll show you a lot of very good detailed information about the chromatogram window in MSMS. If I'd had open a GCMS file in EI ionization, then it would show one appropriate for that. And if you have nothing here when you open the program, it'll just show you a generic information about this chromatogram window. So that's pretty much it about this. The same thing here. If you go to properties, you've got help here for setting it up, or F1 and F1 here. So it's just a lot of the things go to the same place, but those are the essential approaches for getting help in the program. So let's go to the properties menu here. You can see that there's a lot of different ways to look at the information here. I usually click on include advanced results. I want to see them all. And I've already added some of these to the menu down below. You'll see the ones that I've added, the ones that I thought were useful. You just have to, there's so many of them, you just have to decide what's useful to you. So if you want to stretch a window, you can here grab the corner here and take your left mouse button and move it around. If you want to move it over to the next one to get it closer to the other place, you can do that. You can stretch things if you want to, or you can condense them to save space. All the windows are movable. So you can move here, you just go to it, you see a little bitty double arrows, and then with your left mouse, when that shows up, just pull it to where you want to. And so you can really configure it to any way that you want to. And after you do that, you need to make sure that you save things. So you can save all of your settings with all the windows by just going over here and saying File, Save Configuration. You'll see there's a couple here that they give you as standard when you get the software, but you just say Save Configuration, and then you can just go put your name in, and then when you come back in, you just open your configuration, and you won't have to start all over again. And you might have several different configurations for different needs, depending on how you're processing the data. So I find that very handy. Go back over to the chromatogram again. You can see this a list is associated with the identifications. These are identifications of what's in this MSMS chromatogram, and you can limit that list by stretching it, and it changes the list. You can keep stretching it if you want to look at the smallers, but you can always say undo zoom and do it twice and you'll be back to where you were. The other way, you can zoom it, and if you double left click instead of right clicking and going to that menu, so you can go to the right click and say unzoom if you want to, but if you zoom it here, you can also just double click instead of right clicking and saying unzoom. So several different ways to do the same thing, and you could do the same up here if you want to zoom this comparison of the unknown to your best library hit. You can stretch that, but if you right click here, there's no unzoom, so you will have to double left click there and get you back to where you were. There's also, if you've got a lot of identifications, this is kind of like it tells you the concentration. You can see a lot of these are bunched together, so you don't get much dynamic range on the bottom. So you can come up to your right click, go to properties, and then you can go for comparing, hit list, chromatogram view. Instead of linear, you see you have a linear over here on the left for abundance, which is the concentration. You have one here for the total ion current of the MS1 in this case. And you can change that to log and say, okay. Now you can see that these ones on the baseline are better differentiated. You can tell which one's which when you want to select one. It's hard to do that when you're in the linear mode for such a chromatogram with so many entries in it. So I was looking at the next topic, exception and zoom. Structures would be the next thing I wanted to talk about. You can see there's structures here, and I think when the software comes, it doesn't have that shown. So you have to right click, go to properties, and say structure on plot. And that's my favorite way to show the structure. There's also this structure down here, and if you get a lot of columns sometimes, you might need more space here. And I don't particularly find this one useful, so I just grab it with my left button with the double arrows that show up and just push it over. And that gives me more room to add columns or show longer names here. And so that's another way, that's something you might want to change for the structure. The other way they have, which is new to this, is this floating window where you say view, show structure. And it showed up on my second screen over here, so I'll drag it back on. And you can put it anywhere you want. And it actually shows up in the other windows, I believe, also. My best liked approach is just to have the structure below, because when you're reviewing things by stepping through things, it's just a lot easier to see the structure there, in my opinion. But there's a lot of flexibility there if you want. I like the butterfly plot if I was comparing things. This would be the hit for that particular peak. Let's just pick one here, this green dot. And this is what it thinks it is. Whatever the unknown, the MS2 in this case, it'll be an MS2 spectrum for the, of course, for EI-GCMS, it would just be the EI spectrum. And on the bottom, you have the best hit. And so you can, like I said, you can stretch that. And you can also change the side by side and difference, etc. But I like head to tail. I call a butterfly plot the best. So that's that. The last thing I really want to show you is if you want to select things. So let's say we'll talk more about this later, but I'm just going to sort by abundance. And 100% is the biggest peak. Uh, so the 100 peak is that peak there. If you click on it, you can see it, the little green dot next to it. If I wanted to select those and just show the most abundant things, I might want to just show abundances down to, oh, let's say 1%. To do that, you have to go to your keyboard key and use the shift key. So I pick the first one in the list, I hold the shift key, and I come down to where I want to be. And now I've got what I want to select. You can also select with the shift key, well, that's the shift, select with the control key by selecting one at a time. So you don't have to select all that are in a continuous back to back to each other. So there's lots of different ways, but I tend to use the shift key the most. And let's just pick everything that has an abundance above about 1%. And now I just want to make this less complex up there. So I'll just say show, and I'll say show selected. And you're now you have only those shown. So you're just getting the big things that way. The other thing, I like to look at things left to right. So I will click on retention time. You click on it once, it puts the longest first. If you click on it again, now I'll have the lowest. So that'll be the first one in my results on the bottom. And again, I like to step through these while I'm watching this butterfly plot over here. and I'll just use the up and down arrows on my keypad. So I'm on my keypad, and then you can just step through them very quickly. So that's the basic operation of the system. And there, I might have missed a couple of things, but read my handout just to make sure that I didn't leave out something. But I think that'll get you started in the processing of data within these new programs. Thank you.